This is KRT, Critical Race Theory. It's not the one they teach in law school, but the one banned in public schools. The Watts Riots, also known as the Watts Rebellion, was a large series of riots that broke out on August 11, 1965, in the predominantly black neighborhood of Watts in Los Angeles. I'll tell you about it coming up. But first, I'd like to thank a generous supporter, Tom Slick. Thank you, Tom. The Watts Rebellion lasted for 6 days, resulting in 34 deaths, 1,032 injuries, and 4,000 arrests, involving 34,000 people and ending in the destruction of 1,000 buildings, totaling $40 million in damages. Here's how it started. It was a low-key traffic stop around 7 p.m. on a Wednesday evening that ignited what would become known as the Watts Rebellion. Stepbrothers 21-year-old Marquette and Ronald Fry were pulled over for alleged reckless driving by a rookie California Highway Patrol motorcycle officer named Lee Menekas. They were driving their mama's car near the corner of Avalon Boulevard and 116th Street in the Watts neighborhood of Los Angeles. After Marquette failed a field sobriety test, Menekas placed him under arrest and radioed for his vehicle to be impounded. As Marquette's anger rose at the thought of going to jail, a scuffle broke out between him and other police officers. His brother Ronald joined in, partly to protest the arrest, but also to protect his brother. Then a crowd began to gather, and backup police arrived. They assumed that the crowd was hostile, which resulted in a fight between someone in the crowd and an officer. Another newly arrived officer jabbed Ronald in the stomach with his ride baton and then moved to intervene in the fight between Marquette and that officer. Marquette was knocked down by the ride baton, handcuffed, and taken to the police car. Meanwhile, Marquette's brother, Ronald, a passenger in the vehicle, walked to their house nearby. He then brought their mother, Rena Price, back with him to the scene of the arrest. When Rena reached the intersection of Avalon Boulevard and 116th Street, she scolded Marquette about drinking and driving. Then Rena, believing police were abusing Marquette, rushed to pull the officers off him. That resulted in another fight. The situation quickly escalated when someone shoved Rena. Rena then jumped an officer, and another officer pulled out a shotgun. Backup police officers attempted to arrest Marquette by using physical force to subdue him. After community members reported that police had roughed up Marquette and shared a rumor they had kicked a pregnant woman, an angry mob gathered. It's getting ready to go down. As the situation intensified, growing crowds of local residents watching the exchange began yelling and throwing objects at the police officers. Rena and Ronald fought with the officers and eventually were arrested along with Marquette. After the arrest of Price and her sons, the crowd continued to grow along Avalon Boulevard. Police came to the scene to break up the crowd several times that night, but were attacked when people threw rocks and chunks of concrete. As the crowd got angrier at the scene, more highway patrol officers arrived and used batons and shotguns to keep the crowd back from the police cars. Hundreds more people flocked to the scene to investigate the sound of the sirens. As the motorcycle police attempted to leave, one was spat on. Those police stopped to pursue the woman who they believed did it. Then the crowd converged around them, and more officers went into the crowd to assist them. More police cars were called to the scene. Then two officers found Joyce Ann Gaines and arrested her for spitting at them. Now, did she spit at them or did she spit on them? Spitting at them, I don't think that's a law. I think if you got to really spit on them. I digress. She resisted and was dragged out of the crowd, which, believing she was pregnant, became even angrier. By 7:45 p.m., the riot was in full force, with rocks, bottles, and more being thrown at the buses and cars that had been stalled in traffic because of the escalating incident. The night after the arrest, crowds attacked motorists with rocks and bricks and pulled white drivers out of their cars and beat them. A 46-square-mile area of Los Angeles was transformed into a combat zone during the ensuing 6 days. The following morning, there was a community meeting helmed by Watts leaders including representatives from churches, local government, and the NAACP, with police in attendance. It was designed to bring calm to the situation. Rena also attended, imploring the crowds to calm down. She, Marquette, and Ronald had all been released on bail that morning. The meeting became a barrage of complaints about the police and government treatment of black citizens in recent history. Immediately following the statement by Rena, a teenager grabbed the microphone and proclaimed that rioters planned to move into the white sections of Los Angeles. Local leaders requested the police dispatch more black police, but this was turned down by the Los Angeles Police Department Chief William H. Parker, who was prepared to call the National Guard. Word of this decision and subsequent news reports about the teenagers' tirade are credited with causing the riots to escalate. Now, this chief used to recruit most of the police from Alabama, Mississippi, and other Deep South states, and I heard that a lot of them were KKK members. I digress. Overnight, violence had engulfed the streets as crowds clashed with police, set buildings and cars on fire, and looted area stores. Crowds attacked firefighters and obstructed them from putting out fires. By the end of the third day, rioting covered a 50 square mile section of Los Angeles, and 14,000 National Guard troops were dispatched to the city, erecting barricades. Further clashes included sniper fire at police and guardsmen, police raids on vehicles and apartments, and Molotov cocktails. Watts resembled a war zone, and the violence continued 3 more days. Police Commissioner Parker fanned flames by deriding rioters as monkeys in a zoo and implying Muslims were infiltrating and agitating. In the early morning of the final day of the riots, as violence began to subside, police surrounded a mosque, resulting in gunfire and the arrest of people inside. Police ransacked the building next door and tear-gassed the sewers to prevent anyone from escaping. 2 fires broke out and destroyed the mosque. Charges were dropped against arrestees, and the Muslim community accused police of using the riots as an excuse to destroy their place of worship. Yeah, I can believe that. The majority of the 34 fatalities consisted of black citizens, with 2 police officers and 1 firefighter among the casualties. In 20 cases, primarily as a result of actions by the Los Angeles Police Department or the National Guard, the deaths were determined to be justifiable homicides. A commission was set up to study the causes of the riot, after which several community improvement suggestions were made that would improve schools, employment, housing, health care, and relations with the police department. I don't think any of that happened. There was little follow-up, but a new era of DIY activism blossomed in Watts, including reformed street gang members who joined with the Black Panther Party to rebuild and monitor police excesses. The riot was not an isolated incident, with multiple urban riots across the country taking place in 1964 and 1965, prior to the Watts explosion. In 1964, there was a 3-day riot in Rochester, New York, leaving 4 dead. In the New York City neighborhoods of Harlem and Bedford-Stuyvesant, a 6-day riot involving as many as 4,000 people following the shooting of a young black man. In Philadelphia, there was a 3-day riot following the arrest of a black couple who had gotten into a scuffle with the police. And there was a 3-day riot in Chicago when a black woman attempting to shoplift alcohol was attacked by the store owner, and crowds later gathered to protest. Some blamed the Watts riot on outside agitators, but most understood it as the result of continuing dissatisfaction about living conditions and opportunities, and a long-standing tension between police and residents. Well, it looks like that's still going on today. In 1961, the arrest of a black male in Griffith Park for riding a merry-go-round without a ticket resulted in crowds throwing rocks and bottles at police. In 1962, the police raided a Nation of Islam mosque and killed an unarmed man, resulting in massive protests. Over the 2 years leading up to the riot, 65 black residents were shot by police, 27 of them in the back and 25 of them unarmed. During that same period, there were 250 demonstrations against the living conditions there. Nationwide, the violence would not end. On August 12th, the day after tensions erupted in Watts, Chicago's troubled Garfield Park neighborhood erupted in 3 days of violence following the death of Desi Mae Williams in a fire truck ladder accident. The following year saw fire bombings, riots, and killings in the same city, and the Detroit riots began 2 years later, resulting in 43 deaths. The 1992 Los Angeles riots following the Rodney King beatdown trial of 4 police officers led to the death of 63 people and were a grim reminder that many issues of racism remained unresolved and to this day still remain. This has been Critical Race Theory. Please like and subscribe, leave a super thanks or buy me a coffee, and share this video with your friends and family. I'll see you next time.